Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on whatever time you're watching this video. My name is Chineye Ibe, and I am giving this testimony to the glory of God and to really thank Him for all and everything that He's done in my life. Also, I'm doing this testimony as a result of a promise that I made to God that if He delivered for me, that I would give this testimony. I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll wait till the next time I get to Nigeria, I'll give this testimony, but it wouldn't be fair. So that's why I'm giving this testimony now and in this method, at least let it be off from my hands. Before I even start, I really have to thank God for the two ministries that have really been a part and parcel of my life. Starting with the Fountain of Living Water Ministry and also COPM. These are two ministries that God is really using to impact lives and to change their story. So I just wanted to start off that way. But my story is a little bit of a complicated one. I graduated from college in 2009 with a degree in criminal justice. So normally I'm supposed to be a lawyer, which I did work at a law firm for some years, but I wasn't really led to go to law school. So from then on, I've been it's like bouncing like a basketball from one industry to another, from one thing to another. Although in my heart, it's like I was leaning the opportunities that I was having. It was like I was leaning towards compliance and things like that, but it just felt like I was just going round and round, like I was just aimless. Some things happened, and it's like I felt like I had to start off at square one, which is kind of what happened. But from 2015, we reconnected to our Auntie Ngozi and Uncle Charles, who are the head of COPM. And since then, it's been a wild journey. And I thank God for their lives, actually. So anyway, in I think 2024, we came to Nigeria. I think that was in June. And I remember we went to the mountain and, I received a word about, there'll be a job that will come and I'll find this job on the internet. I'll apply for it and I'll get the job. And, it's supposed to be like a really good job. I didn't even know that and I said amen to that. And I didn't even know that I had already applied to it. It's true. I found the job online. I just submitted my resume and I completely forgot about it. And that word came in June of 2024. And once I came home, some days, I wouldn't even say it was up to a week or two. Maybe let's say 1 or 2 weeks after I came back, I received a phone call for an interview for a position with the federal government doing investigations and all that. And God worked that out as well because there was a concern about, traveling to Nigeria and all that. I didn't know how that would play out, but God took care of it. And that's how I started working that job. And the thing about that job was that we're supposed to be promoted every year, which was one of the perks of the job. And at the time, for me to accept the job, it was like I was going to have a pay cut. So I said, okay, let me manage this pay cut at least for 1 year, knowing that, the following year I'll be promoted, I'll be back on track and, continue. So I took the job. And since then, so many things have happened, so many turnovers. The overall director left. I had 3 supervisors within a span of 1 year. And, with every supervisor, everyone is doing things differently. The job was just it was just confusion everywhere. And it got to the point I'm like, this isn't it. I started to get uncomfortable. of my cohort, the people that I trained with, out of like 20 of us, they held the promotions for over half of us. I think only a handful of us received our promotion on time. So that to me was like, I can't stay here. I can't, I have responsibilities and things I needed to take care of. So I was like, God, please, you have to do something. Move me out from this place. And, I kept having dreams, like, it was just like, it's time to go, but I didn't know how to go about it. In December of 2025, now, what's important about that is that job that I was working with the federal government, my area, or because they've broken up the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., in that was our domain. My team that I was assigned to was for Capitol Hill, which is the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. And this is very important. So most of my cases that most of the people that I investigated worked in these buildings. So I had now access to these buildings, going in and out. I didn't have any problem. And it was so amazing to me because before I used to think like these type of places are impossible for someone like me. Like I thought, it's one of those, the Holy of Holies, you're not allowed in there. But this job kind of, like I said, gave me access into that building. So I met people and I saw things, and I'm like, God, from the very moment I stepped into that building, specifically in the Senate, I said, God, I claim one of these offices for me. There has to be space for me here. And I just left it at that. So fast forward December 2025, I went to go and interview someone, a young man who was there. And after the interview, I was supposed to meet with his supervisor to interview his supervisor as well. And so I finished with him. He said, let me go talk to my supervisor and bring her in. I said, no problem. So I was setting up for her. And he said, oh, my supervisor is eating her lunch. She's eating soup. So you have to go to her office. So at first I'm like, what type of game is this guy playing? But I said, okay, no problem. So I went to her office. And, we sat down, we had an excellent conversation as if we were old friends. We talked about shoes. We talked about the weather. We talked about the train. I mean, we talked about everything. So in the process of our, I'm forgetting something. Before that day, as I was getting ready to go meet with them, God said to me, take your resume. And I'm like, I'm already running late. How can I start printing my resume? So I said, okay, well, I have it virtually. That's okay. So I went. So then now, I'm meeting with this lady. We're having this conversation. So she started to talk about, asking me, how do I feel about my job? How do I like it? And I said, well, I do like my job, but I'm more of an administrative person. I enjoy kind of being in the background. I'm not really, investigations is okay, but my passion is more for administration. So she's like, oh, really? I'm the administrative director here. And, here at the Senate, most people, they don't really care too much for the administrative side because most people want to go into policy, like legislative, making laws and things like that. So it's not that many people that want to go onto the administrative side. And I said, well, I love it. And so she said, tell me more about you, what your educational background and everything. By the time I started gisting with this lady, she's like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, you're supposed to be here. I'm like, MMO. So she said, well, do you have your resume? I said, try it. I remembered what God said about bringing my resume. So I said, okay, I don't have my resume on me. Honestly, God told me to bring it and I didn't have time. I was running late. So that's on me, but I have it virtually on my phone. Can I email it to you? She said, sure, no problem. So while we were sitting there, I emailed my resume to her. And so afterwards, she said, okay, let's, conversation was over. She said, I'll look into it and, we'll take a look and we'll talk. I said, okay. She gave me her business card. And then as it was time for me to leave, she stood up and she was like, let's walk and talk. So we're walking and talk. Even the boy I came to interview that was supposed to be the one to take me out, she's like, don't worry, I'll take her. So she escorted me to the elevator before I went downstairs. I'm like, God, what type of connection is this? And so even before I can get to my car, she already sent me an email like, oh, I haven't seen your resume yet. What's going on? Send it now, send. So I did send it. Eventually, I sent it to her personal email, which she received it. She said, "Oh, this is nice," but the issue is the formatting for us on Capitol Hill. Again, U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. Our resumes are formulated in a certain way. The template is different. So she sent me a template that said, "Try to put your resume this way." I said, "Okay, no problem, no problem," which I did. I put the resume together and I sent it to her. She said, "Okay, this is perfect." She started to ask me about my salary requirements. I said, "Well, I've been in the game for over 16 years at this point. I'm looking at this and this type of salary." I never heard from this woman again. I remember during Christmas period, because remember, I met her early December. So I used style Christmas time. I sent her a message, goodwill message, "Merry Christmas to you and your family," this and that, this and that. No response. I sent emails. I called. No response. I said, "Okay, well, God, I thought maybe that would be the door to go in, but since she's ignoring me, no problem." So I used it as a prayer point. And like I said, things were at my job, things were not really working well. Like just one issue after the other. I'm like, "God, I don't know what is going to happen." So I remember one day I came to my mom's house and she was on the phone with Auntie Ngozi, and it's like, "Oh, are you all coming home this year?" Being now, fast forward, we're in 2026. And, mommy's like, "I don't know if, it's tough, money for flights and all those things. I don't know." But it was like, it was on our heart. Like, yeah, let's see if we can make it. And I remember Auntie said, "Teacher, I really want you to come home in particular because there's a particular prayer I want to pray over you." Once she said that, I'm like, we have to see what we can do. And so it was a struggle trying to get money together. And so many things started to happen, even trying to buy the tickets to come. They canceled the ticket without telling us. They rerouted us somewhere else. I mean, it was chaos. But with all this trial, my mom said something like, "This trip must be extraordinary. If we're going through all these things, even before the trip, there's a reason why God is Satan is trying to prevent us from making this trip." So we kept pressing harder. Like I said, so many things happened, but by the special grace of God, we were able to buy our ticket. And and the funny thing was, I remember that was the period that they were having problems with the security officers at the airport. So they're like, "You guys are going to be at the airport for like 5 or 6 hours." We got there was no one in line. We couldn't believe it. Like, I thought the news would, if you see the news, they were saying that if you have to, in fact, cancel your travel if you have to, but God made it possible. So many things happened that it's like, this can only be the hand of God. For the sake of time, I'll just breeze through. So we get to Onitsha, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. We went to the mountain, and that's always my favorite part, going to the mountain. With the ministers of COPM. I bless God for their lives. Thank you all for your prayers, for your time. We went to the mountain, we spent time there, and we were receiving words after word. And it's just like, wow, like the glory of God really came down. And, it's tough for me coming from where I'm coming from, the heat and all that. But anytime I go to that mountain, I already know that I'm not coming back the same. So it's a must. When we came back from the mountain, I didn't even know, we didn't know that there was actually a word that went ahead of us even before we came home, to the ministers of COPM, that once these two people, once they arrive, like they need to be, not, because Auntie Beria also was in Nigeria as well. So it's like, they need to find time to get to the altar. If they get to the altar, we'll pray for them and all that. So by the special grace of God, we made that trip to the ministry. And I remember it was evening, it was thunderstorming, but, Uncle Charles, God bless him. I thank God for him being such a great father figure for us all. It's like they pressed, like, let's get there. And we did. We were able to pray. And I remember it was so hot that evening, but God made it possible. So we did what God asked us to do. From there, we went to Asaba, and the ministers came, and family members, my cousin from Lagos came in, and I bless God for his life as well. And to me, a lot of people may think, staying at a 5-star resort is the best, this and that. But the time that we spent together in Asaba, like I told my mom, I think this is probably the best trip that I've ever had. just, sitting in the midst of ministers and, just praying, singing, the praise and worship. I mean, it was something else. And just spending time with family members. I mean, it was incredible for me. And one of the highlights, I mean, it was like we were having road trip going back and forth to Asala, but I loved it. It was fun. But we really had a great time in the presence of the Lord. In particular, when Pastor Ifeanyi and Pastor Patrick, I believe, came from Lagos. And I believe they stayed a little bit longer, I think, to do deliverance at COPM later. But we had a really good, intense session with them for over 2 or 3 days. Words. And I remember I brought up this issue about the job thing. Like, I know that God has really, I felt like I have a place there, but you see, this door that I wanted to go to is closed. And I mean, even to go back, so many things were happening in the background. But I remember my mom and I are like, let's just go to Nigeria first. When we come back from Nigeria, we'll handle all these. I mean, there were just all things coming up. We'll handle it. So it's like, that was our opportunity to just open up and say what was going on. So, but before, there was one session that we were having in the afternoon, but beforehand we were just in the living room I was in the living room with my mom and Auntie Ngozi, and she just, that prayer, that special prayer, it just slipped out. So I'm like, oh, this is it. So we started to pray, and she made so many declarations over my life. But one in particular, she said, Chineye, receive the keys. And this isn't the first time I've received this word. Those are the OGs, the real COP members, know that there have been several messages about keys and things like that over my life. I think even January 2026, I wasn't there, but I received words. But anyway, she talked about the keys, receiving the keys. And then she said that I'm going to receive a call, and it's coming. I'm going to receive a phone call, and it will change my life, and it will change my bank account. I said, amen. I said, amen. I claimed it with 2 hands. And later on that same afternoon, now we had a session with Pastor Ifeanyi and Pastor Patrick, and it was just word after, and the same thing. I explained what happened and all that, and it was just like confirmation of what Auntie Ngozi said. There's a vacancy for you there. They're going to call you. Like, just don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. And so I held on to it, that I'm going to receive that phone call. And I held on to it. So we came back. We made that trip in April. And once I came back, I don't know, I was just playing around on the computer again, applying to these jobs, but applying to jobs only in those 2 places, the House of Representatives and the Senate, because I felt that this is where I'm supposed to be. And I should have said this in the beginning, I'll explain at the end. So I saw a job, and I just stumbled into one of the committees, and I just submitted an application or submitted my resume, and I again forgot about it, because I wrote in my notebook in January. In January I always write my prayer points, what I want God for me to do that year, and one of them was I wanted to get a job maybe as like an administrative director, and then I wanted to work, and I wanted a job in the Senate, and I wanted it to be in the Hart building. There's 3 buildings, and there's one building in particular that I wanted to work in. That's how specific I was. I really wanted an office in that building. So, I didn't even check where this job was. I just submitted an application and forgot about it. So I was praying over it and all that. I remember one day God said, Chichi, write your, no, that came later. I would see images of my office. I can see an office, and it's set up in the way that their offices usually are set up. So I'm like, God, I know you're doing something. More words were coming. I said, okay. So one morning I was about to start work, and it was just in my impression, it was on my heart to pray. And I did, and I read, was it Joshua chapter 24 or 25? I can't remember, but he was saying that he was talking about the children of Israel, and he was, talking about how he brought them out of just kind of reminding them of all the things that he's done. And he was just telling them, like, look, listen, like the place where you're in, I'm the one that gave it to you. The lands that you have, or that I've given you, you didn't work for it, you didn't toil for it. You didn't build any of it. The olive groves, I think, and I'm the one that gave it to you. And so where you're going, the special place you're going, make sure you don't conform to their behaviors and attitudes. Any day you do, that place that I'm taking you to, I'm going to remove you from there. So it's like an arrow hit me. I'm just like, God, I know that this is for me, And it ministered to me that this place that God is taking me to, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Then I'll explain at the end, and then you'll see why I'm saying that. So anyway, I was praying, keeping it in prayer. My mom was praying. I know Auntie Ngozi was praying. Nancy Bear, everybody was praying over it. Sometime in May, or was it June? Again, in the morning, I'm praying, getting ready for work. I received a phone call. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm calling from this committee at the Senate. We would like to set up, just like an interview with you. I said, God, is this how it is? I said, okay, wow, okay. I'm like, God, thank you. So I started to really put it in prayer. And I'm like, God, I just want it to be a conversation. I just want a conversation. And even as I was preparing for interviews, like God was dropping things in my heart, what do you want, like what would they ask? Those type of things. So I was really preparing for myself. So we had the interview, and it was just like the things that I was saying was just hitting exactly what, they wanted to hear. Apparently, I'll get back to that. So it was just like perfect. So then they were like, okay, well, okay. So before the interview, he had to do like a screening, like to have a conversation with me, because apparently the job needed someone that has never worked for Senate before, who is neither Republican or Democratic. So in the Nigerian sense, maybe you're not aligned with any political party. You just have to be neutral. And that's important because working in these places, once you're in, the problem is getting in. Once you're in, then usually you're promoted from within and you move up. So for this job, it was so ironic because they were looking for someone who has never worked in the Senate before or worked at the House of Representatives before. So I was just like, okay. And then you couldn't align with either party, which is really where I was, truthfully. So I'm like, okay, God, fine. So they said, okay, we'll get back to you. And they said, well, the issue is we received hundreds and hundreds of applications, and we've narrowed it down to 7. There's only 7 of you. So we'll be interviewing and all that, and we'll get back to you. I said, okay. So we had the interview, and then I'm like, okay, God, it's in your hands. So I was really hammering it, praying. The next thing I knew, they said, okay, they called me back, and they said, well, we would like to do, no, I'm forgetting something. Between the screening and the interview, there was silence for a little while because he's like, oh yeah, I'll call you back. So we can set up something. And I didn't hear from them. So I said, God, maybe, I don't know why this is happening again. Maybe, one spirit would just enter them and all that. And I was on my way to Bible study when I remember that thought process I was having. And God said to me, not the yoke has been broken. The siege has been broken. That's what I heard. The siege has been broken. I said, amen. I claimed that. Then the very next morning is when I received the call or the email about setting up an interview to meet in person with these 2 that I interviewed with initially. And then the head director. So I went online. I was researching. This is a lady that was in the military, like a lawyer in the military, like heavy duty lady, right? So I said, God, please, like, just download into me what you want me to say and hear. And again, I want this to be a conversation. I don't want this to be an interview. True. I went down there, and it was like old friends talking. We were having a great conversation and all that. They were asking me questions and all that. At the very end, they said, can you give us 3 people that, references? I said, oh, sure, I'll give you references. Oh, I'm forgetting something. So remember when I told you the gentleman said, oh, that there's 7 of you or so that have been waitlisted or shortlisted, and So when I got off the phone with him, I called my mom and I said, Mom, look at what happened. This is the call I received. This is what he said. And Mommy said, wow. She started screaming that she was watching Pastor Jerry. And that was what he said, that there are 7 of you out of hundreds. There are 7 of you that were waitlisted. And out of that 7, they will choose you. They will choose you. So I was okay, cool. I was hanging on to that word. So fast forward, I met with the 2 my supervisors and then the director of the overall office. So now everything is in God's hands. So at the very end, I said, well, and God was just downloading to me what to ask them. They were specific, and I thank God for that, because I think that's what really signaled to them, like, I think this is the person that we need. And so they were asking, confidentiality, which is pretty much doing what I do as an investigator. You have to maintain confidentiality. So it was just like everything I was saying was just really hammering on what they needed. I said, okay. So towards the end, I said, okay, well, I just wanted to know how long would it take for this process, like for me to know when you guys will make your final selection. She said, well, honestly speaking, it may take a while. She said, right now we're not in session. The senators are not around. And in order for you to have this position, 2 senators, the chairperson and the vice chair, have to sign off on it. We don't know how long that will take. Sometimes it can take months. The woman said, I have to give the recommendation, and then they have to sign off. Both of them have to sign off on it. So it may take some time. Just, you have to hang tight before we hear back from them. I said, okay. That was on a Thursday or Friday. Now, see, prayers. And the funny thing was, I understand Auntie and Cousin Uncle Charles too were praying about it, because my mom was giving them updates as far as what was happening. So they too were praying on their own end. My mom was praying. It was like, God, let's push this thing through. Something that they said will take months. I received a call on a Monday or a Tuesday. They went through all my references. They called them and all that. They said, we're ready for you. Let's go. Like, we want to hire you. And they've approved it. They couldn't believe how quickly it took for them to approve it, because they were out of session. They would think that maybe, there are other things that were going on. By the special grace of God, my people, what was supposed to take months took only 2 or 3 days. They signed off on it. They themselves couldn't believe it. Okay. And the funny thing was, so many things I'm missing. In between that period, the waiting period, I remember God asked me to go ahead and start creating my resignation letter at my current job. I said, this is bold, dude. God is like, go ahead, write your resignation letter. And I wrote the letter. I dated it and everything. And by the grace of God, they gave me the job. So now all I have to do is just update the dates on my resignation letter, and I sent it off like that. So my last day at my job was supposed to be June 19th, and I was supposed to start on that Monday, being the 22nd. Just to tell you how wicked and unfair the devil is. June 19th is a holiday for us. So no one went to work. We didn't go to work. So technically my last day physically in office was on the 18th, but the 19th was a holiday. So I said, okay, let me use this time to, do laundry, get everyone ready for the next week. On my way home from the laundry with my son, we were heading home, and we were hit by a drunk driver who was speeding, who ran the stop sign. And this is my car going straight, and he just came from this way and hit me directly. I didn't see him coming. And, the ironic thing about that is, like, so many people say, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm old before I serve God, and, this and that. Before I die, that's when I'll ask God for forgiveness and all that. My people, the message I want people to know is that in that instant, I didn't even have time to say Jesus. Like, that's how quickly it happened. All I saw was like just red, like a red blur. The person was driving a red car. All I saw was a red blur. Boom, hit us. The car spinned and started facing the opposite. So we're going this way, but at the end of the day, my car was facing this way. The guy now hit a telephone pole. I mean, it was, the airbags deployed. There were burns. You can't see it anymore. Thank God it healed, but there were burns on my body from the airbag. And I mean, oh man, Like, you just have to thank God. And the interesting thing was, we received a message from home, something about, unfortunately, we lost a family member, about that same time in April, towards the end of April, which made the trip bittersweet. But so the family, they've been preparing for that, and I believe the word was that that they should pray that there won't be a burial before the burial. And Auntie Ngozi told my mom this, and my mom too was having dreams about like death. Like you can feel the tension, like there was something that was going to happen. So everyone was kind of being prayerful on edge. Didn't even know that it was about me. And I say this to the glory of God, because if not for God, if I would have been maybe 2 or 3 seconds ahead, he would have hit me directly. Either I would have been paralyzed or dead. That's how hard he hit me. But really, it was just more like almost touching me, but really it was just the front of the car. The whole front of the car is gone. Auntie Ngozi and Uncle Charles will show you the pictures if you want to see it, just to tell you how good God is. We walked away, just bruises and all those things. My son, who was in the car in the front seat, no scratches, no injury whatsoever, which was a miracle. The people that came out were like, you came out of this accident alive? One woman told my mom, my son's angel is alive, because it's like he was untouched. And mind you, I'm supposed to start my new job on Monday. This happened on Friday. So it pushed my start date to Wednesday. But by the special grace of God, my people, I am gainfully employed with the U.S. Senate. It's something that I could not have ever imagined. And so what is so crazy about it is everything that I've asked God for. The environment is relaxed. It's not just, even my student loans, like all these things that do you know that the craziest thing about them all is that this was the building that I wanted to work in. God gave me an office in the exact building I asked him for. So there's no way in the world anyone can tell me that, oh, this is your doing or anything. This is God's doing. And that's why I want to give him all the glory, because if not for him, I don't know where I would be. So what I've been trying to explain all this time, I keep pushing it to the end, is like, this is an institution where you see white people. It's a lot of white people that work there. Barely do you see black people like working for the Senate. Last, you'll see them, people that are like cleaning, people that are, security, the Capitol Police. Most of them are black. But to see black people working in the Senate, it's rare. And what makes it so bad is that, the Senate is where they make these laws and policies for supposed to be representing everybody in the country. But the people that are working there are white people, young white people who are coming from rich families and things like that. So it's one of those things where it's like, wow, God, I know that it's not in my own power. There's nothing that I can say that I've done, to deserve this or to get such a position. It's just God and only God. So I just want to really thank God for what he's done for me. I want to use this opportunity to thank the Fountain of Living Water Ministry, my mom, who is my pastor. I thank God for her leadership. I thank God for even her, just always praying over me, and even her persistence, making this trip to Nigeria, my people. I can't tell you how difficult it was financially, the coordination, even like it was a lot, but God made it possible. And I really want to thank God for my mom, because she knew we needed this trip more than anything. And even on COPM side, from, Uncle Charles, Auntie Ngozi, the coordination, the running back and forth, the ministers, man, a lot of planning went into this trip. And I thank sincerely from my heart, I thank God for each and every one of them, for all that they've done. Even, just having everyone come together, praying together, worshiping together. You guys have no idea the impact that you're making in people's lives, especially in mine. I can't wait to get back to Nigeria to really celebrate in person, to really share what God has been doing. But I'll stop here for the sake of time. I think I'm running almost 35 minutes. So just want to thank God. If there's anything that God has promised you, No matter what it is, no matter how crazy it sounds, if God says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. It may take time. The road to get there may be a little bit windy, may not seem straight, but just hold on to God. There's one of my favorite verses that he said, be still and know that I'm God. Just be still. He will do it for you. As he's promised, he will surely fulfill it. So we thank God for that. And also, Fountain of Living Water Ministry, COPM, you guys have your own arm, your own branch in the U.S. Senate. So we give God the glory for that. I'll see you all soon. I love y'all. Mwah. Bye.